Here's the thing. I have reviewed hundreds of sales calls. I mean, countless. And I can tell you within the first 60 seconds whether the seller is going to close that deal or not. Not from the pitch, not from the deck, not from the offer, but from their nervous system. Before a single objection has been raised, before the prospect has even finished introducing themselves, I can hear it. The voice is too fast, too tight. The laugh is a half second too eager. The first question is defensive instead of curious. The energy is frantic instead of grounded. And when I hear that, well, I already know how the call is going to end. The seller is what I call unregulated. Their amygdala, yeah, big word, has flagged this call as a threat. Their brain has flooded with cortisol. Their prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for listening and asking great questions, for reading the room and responding with precision, has gone partially offline. They're no longer selling, they are surviving. And today we're going to talk about exactly what is happening inside your body and your brain in the first 60 seconds of a high stakes sales conversation and why it's costing you more deals than any script ever could, and what high performers do instead. Welcome back to Revenue Rascals. I'm Michelle Terpstra. Let's build some revenue. It's time for Rascal Rant, unfiltered truth, straight talk, no fluff. So here's the hot take nobody in sales training wants to say out loud. You can have the best script in the world and still lose that deal because of how your body feels. Now, I'm not a big woo-woo kind of person, so I'm just bringing the science here. You're going to want to listen because it is the easiest fix to make more sales. You see, we have spent decades optimizing for the wrong thing. We memorized frameworks, we rehearse objection handlers, we A/B test our subject lines and our openers and our close language. And yes, all of that matters, but none of it actually matters if you walk into that conversation in a dysregulated state. Because here's what the truth is. Your prospect is not evaluating your words first. They're evaluating your energy first. The human brain is absolutely wired to scan other people for safety before it even listens to the content. It happens automatically below the conscious awareness level that you're ever going to notice until this episode. Before your prospect processes your offer, their nervous system is already deciding whether you feel safe to buy from or not. And this is, like I said, not woo. This is neuroscience. When you are dysregulated, when your cortisol is elevated and your sympathetic nervous system is running the show, it shows up in your vocal tone, your pacing, your word choices, and the quality of your questions. You talk faster, you over-explain, you fill the silence. You get defensive when there's a pause because your brain reads silence as danger. You push for the close before the prospect is ready because your anxious brain wants the uncertainty to end. And the prospect feels all of this. Maybe they can't name it. Maybe they just feel it. And it makes them want to slow down, to pull back. Let me think about that. Can you send me more information? The most persuasive thing you can do in a sales conversation has nothing to do with your script. It is arriving regulated. But here is where I want to flip this on its head because I don't want you to think this is to be like some doom and gloom episode. High performance is not about never feeling nervous because that would be impossible. We're all humans. That is not the goal. And frankly, it's not possible, right? The goal is to stop letting your nervous system run the call without your permission. Elite performers in every high pressure field, from athletes to surgeons, Navy SEALs, know that pre-performance state management is a non-negotiable skill. They train it, they practice it, they have rituals, and sellers, well, they almost never do this. And that is the gap we're closing today. Welcome to Why This Works and Why It Doesn't. Real strategies, real results, no sugarcoating. All right, here is the science. What is actually happening in your body? Let me give you a quick physiology because understanding this changes how seriously you take state management. When your brain perceives a threat, which by the way can be an important sales call just as easily as a lion chasing you, your amygdala fires distress signals. This triggers a cascade. Adrenaline floods your bloodstream within seconds, your heart rate spikes, blood rushes to your muscles. This is your fight or flight response, and it is ancient, automatic, and extremely good at its job of keeping you alive. But here is the problem. Cortisol, the slower acting stress hormone, actually stays elevated for 40 to 60 minutes after the stressor hits. A study published in Communications Psychology found that higher cortisol levels lead to lower decision-making quality, especially under time pressure, which is every single sales conversation you ever have, right? Research from the Neuroscience confirms that stress shifts you away from your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for listening, nuance, empathy, and strategic thinking, and towards your amygdala, which operates in binary, reactive, self-protection mode. So what's the translation here? When you are dysregulated, you are literally less capable of asking great discovery questions, reading buying signals, handling objections with grace, or closing with confidence. Your brain is running a survival program, and survival programs do not close deals. So what does dysregulation sound like on a call? Well, here's what I notice in the first 60 seconds when a seller is unregulated. Talking speed is too fast, filling space before the prospect can settle, laughter or filler words that signal nervousness rather than warmth. The first question is vague, rushed, or generic because they are really not present. And it's pitch energy rather than curiosity energy. You can hear the agenda. And lastly, reactive listening. They are waiting for their turn to talk, not actually absorbing what the prospect is saying. And this is the deal. None of these are character flaws. All of them are nervous system signals. So on the other side of things, what does regulation look like on a call? Well, this is where you want to be. So this is the contrast with a regulated seller. In the first 60 seconds, you hear a pace that matches or slightly slows the prospect's energy. You're grounded, unhurried warmth, not performative energy, actual presence. A strong, specific opening question that demonstrates they did their homework. Comfortable tolerance of silence. They're not afraid of space in the conversation. And a quality of listening that makes the prospect feel genuinely heard. The regulated seller feels safe to buy from, and safety is the prereq for a buying decision. So why does most common advice not work? Well, most sales coaching says, just be confident. And that is not actionable. Confidence is a state, not a decision. You cannot will your cortisol down. You cannot think your way out of fight or flight response mid-call. But what you can do is build a pre-call ritual that primes your nervous system before the call begins. So you arrive regulated instead of trying to recover mid-conversation. So here's the Rascal-approved fix, what I would like to call the pre-call regulation protocol. This is not a 45-minute wellness routine because who has time for that in the middle of the day before a call? So this is actually a quick 10-minute protocol designed specifically for high-stakes sales conversations. So now here's the framework. So step 1 is pattern interrupt. And this should take you 1 or 2 minutes. Your nervous system needs a circuit breaker before a big call. This means physically changing your state. Stand up, shake out your hands, do 10 jumping jacks, take a cold splash of water onto your face. Whatever you want to do, but the goal is to interrupt the anxious thought loop with a physical signal that tells your brain the threat is over. Now, step 2 is what I would like to call psychological regulation, and this takes a couple minutes. This is where the breathing comes in. I personally like box breathing, but there's lots of different options. So box breathing is what's called a 4-7-8 pattern, and it activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the brake, not the gas pedal, and measurably lowers your heart rate within minutes. Harvard Health research confirms breathing techniques stimulate the vagus nerve, right? Which pulls your system back towards calm. This is not soft. It is simply biology. Now, step 3, 1 to 2 minutes, anchor your intent. Before the call, write down one sentence. My job is to understand them, not to impress them. This reframes it literally shifts your brain from threat of I need to perform to mission. I need to listen. The threat response drops. Curiosity comes online. Simple, right? Step 4 is to prime your posture. This will take you less than a minute. So this is the deal. Research from Amy Cuddy's work and later replications shows that body posture actually affects your hormone levels. Can you believe that? So stand or sit tall, shoulders back, chest open for 60 seconds before the call. You are not striking a pose for anyone else. You're giving your body a physical cue that you are confident, not cornered. And lastly, step 5 is review one fact about this prospect. This will take you 2 minutes, not the whole file, one specific detail that reminds you this is a real person with a real problem you might be able to solve. This activates empathy and curiosity instead of what I refer to as performative anxiety. Run this before every high stakes call, and your close rate will tell you the story. You're in the coaching corner where we stop talking and start taking action. Question number 1, Michelle, I know I'm getting in my head on big calls with enterprise prospects or high ticket clients. Is there a way to actually train myself to get less activated over time? Or is this just something I manage call by call forever? So this is the deal. Yes, this is trainable. Stress resilience is not a fixed trait. It is capacity that you build with repetition and deliberate exposure. Sports psychologists call this stress inoculation. You rehearse under simulated pressure, so the real event feels less novel to your nervous system. So here's a practical move. I want you to record your own calls and listen back for dysregulation signals, tone, pace, filler, and run mock discovery calls with a peer where they throw objections. The more your brain has seen this situation, the less it tags it as a threat. Also, your recovery speed matters more than never getting activated. Elite athletes do not avoid nerves, they just recover faster. So you can train the same thing by intentionally using your protocol after tough moments and logging how fast it takes you to return to baseline. So if you go on to Amazon right now, I have a really easy resource for you. It's called the High Performance Sales Habits Workbook. And over a 90-day period, this is just one piece that we address in that workbook. So if you want a companion with this episode, that's the easiest thing for you. And go scoop it up and make this a thing. And in 90 days, it will completely change your life. Now, long-term here, consistent sleep, exercise, and low baseline cortisol will make you structurally more regulated before you even pick up the phone or jump on Zoom or attend your coffee chat meeting. State management starts 24 hours before the call, not just 10 minutes like the protocol that I gave you. So it's really important that you're taking care of yourself with sleep, exercise, and all the things that make you regulated. Okay, so now we're on to question number 2. What about mid-call? Sometimes I can feel myself starting to spiral when a prospect pushes back hard or goes quiet. What do I do in the moment? Okay, well, this is a great question. You can't stop the initial spike, but you can choose your next move within about 3 seconds of noticing it. So what I actually really like to do is to keep a rubber band on my wrist. And it might sound a little medieval, but I like it. And to stat myself out of any issues, I just pull the rubber band real fast. No one can see it, right? In a call or anything. And even if you're in person, no one can tell you can do it. And it snaps you out of it. Okay. Other options is to slow your breathing without making it obvious. One slow exhale while the prospect is talking is often enough to drop the urgency signal in your brain. Second, buy yourself time with a question instead of a rebuttal. And if you're following my AVP process, you should know this. This is part of why Acknowledge, Validate, Peel even exists. I need you to go back to my other episodes, grab the AVP training, because this is a really important piece of the puzzle. Like I said, you're going to buy yourself some time with a question instead of a rebuttal. For example, that is fair. Tell me more about that. Okay, super simple. These words do 2 things at once. They keep your mouth regulated, no blurting, no defending, and they signal to the prospect that you're a listener, not a pusher. Third, name the silence if needed. I want to make sure I understand this correctly before I respond. This is not a weakness. It is authority. Regulated people take up time. Unregulated people fill it. So the goal mid-call is not to never feel activated. It is just simply to never let your nervous system answer a question your brain should be answering. Hey, Rascals, I want to tell you about something that I'm doing that I have never done before. But you do know that I've spent about the better half of the last decade coaching high-performing sellers. I even wrote a workbook on it, High Performing Sales Habits Workbook, which you can still go and grab on Amazon. But something kept nagging at me because what I kept seeing was not just a sales problem. It was a human performance problem. And it was not just happening to sellers, it was happening to founders, to operators, to leaders, to anyone who was carrying more than their fair share of weight in their organization. They were performing, but they were also burning out. And nobody was talking about the real reason why. So I built something. I've spent the last few years developing a complete high performance framework, one that goes way beyond selling, and I'm debuting it live for the first time ever at the Revenue Rascals High Performance Workshop in Salt Lake City this spring. It is 2 half-day sessions, April 30th and May 19th at Kiln in Holiday, Utah, which is one of my favorite co-working spaces and honestly, the perfect room for this kind of work. Here is what we're going to cover. The 6-element framework I built is broken into 3 layers. The unlock, which is fuel and freedom. The engine, which is discipline and resilience, and the force multiplier, which is leverage and thought leadership. You are going to leave with a 90-day personal action plan built live in the room, not a workbook full of theory, an actual working system built around you. And here is why this particular workshop matters. This is the IP before it becomes the book. You are literally in the first room where these things go live. That means you get to shape it, experience it first, and carry it before anyone else even knows it exists. Tickets are $500 for both sessions. And because you're a podcast listener and I love you, use the code RASCAL at checkout for 50% off. That is 2 half days of live work with me, a 90-day action plan, snacks, and a full day of co-working access at Kiln on both days for just $250. I'm not going to tell you that deal lasts forever, but honestly, well, the room is capped at 60 people. And once it fills, it fills. So right now, go to revenuerascals.com/high performance workshop and use the code RASCAL at checkout. Okay, now let's get back to the show. Now we're up to question number 3. And thank you to everybody for submitting these questions. This is so fun. And it just makes the episodes more exciting and enjoyable when we have our listeners submitting questions. So if you haven't done it and you would like to, all you have to do is email hello@michelleterpstra.com with your question. And please include some context. And you never know, might show up on the show. All right. So question number 3. I lead a sales team and I can see when my reps are dysregulated, but I don't know how to coach it without it feeling like I'm commenting on their personality or attacking their confidence. So this is a great one. First of all, I want you to reframe the coaching language entirely. Never say, you seem nervous or you need to be more confident. Those land as character assessments. And quite frankly, tell them to listen to Revenue Rascals. Share this episode. I'll do the heavy lifting for you. Okay? Like there are so many ways to get around this. So instead, make it tactical and behavioral. I noticed the call picked up speed around the pricing conversation. Let's listen back to that section together. What do you hear? That's coaching. This makes it about the pattern and not the person. Next, introduce the concept of state management to the whole team, not just struggling reps. Easiest way, share this episode. I'll do the work for you. And when it is team language and not corrective language, it normalizes the conversation and removes the shame. Next, build pre-call rituals into your team culture. A 10-minute prep call block is not overhead. It is a performative protocol. Elite sports teams warm up, so shouldn't sales teams too? I think so. Also, worth noting is that if your reps are chronically dysregulated, it may be a pipeline problem and not a mindset problem. Scarcity thinking, I need this deal to survive, is one of the fastest triggers of the threat response. Full pipelines create regulated sellers. Let's bring it home. Rascal wrap-up time. Key takeaways and a resource to keep you winning. Let me give you 3 things I want you to walk away with today. 1, your prospect's buying decision starts before you say your first word. The energy that you bring into the call is the first impression, and no script covers for an unregulated opener. 2, regulation is a skill, not a personality trait. You can train it, you can build a protocol for it, and you can get measurably better at it over time. 3, the highest performing sellers are not the ones who feel the least. They are the ones who have built the fastest path back to presence. Now, I've built a resource for you that goes with this episode, and you can grab it over at revenuerascals.com. It's completely free to sign up for the resource vault. And I keep every single template, playbook, script, resource inside there for my listeners. And the one I'm doing today is what I would like to call the Revenue Rascals High Performance Pre-Call Ritual Template. It is your plug and play protocol for showing up regulated, grounded, and ready to close. Before every high stakes conversation, you'll want to use this. And maybe you'll use it for other things in your life as well. Completely free, like I said, jump over revenuerascals.com if you're not already part of the vault. If you are, then you know how to log in and everything is there for you. Now, friends, I want you to go do what? Make some sales, have some fun, and stay a rascal. Thanks for listening to Revenue Rascals, where we turn bold ideas into predictable revenue and prove that breaking the rules can still build empires. If you love what you heard, do me a favor. Tap the links in the show notes to support our sponsors. They're the ones keeping this show free so I can keep ungating the six-figure strategies that help you scale faster, lead smarter, and take more freedom home with you. And hey, if you think you'd make an incredible guest or know someone who's built something worth studying, email me at hello@michelleterpstra.com. And until next time, stay sharp, stay bold, and stay just a little bit rascal.